Welcome to the first panel in our Cyber Trends 2023 series. I'm Lisa Easterly, President and CEO of the Cyber Center of Excellence, or CCOE. We are a San Diego-based nonprofit that mobilizes businesses, academia, and government to grow the regional cyber economy and create a more secure digital community for all. Well, cybersecurity is now everyone's business, with the FBI reporting a 300% increase in cyber crimes across all industries since the pandemic began, with the average cost of a data breach climbing over $4 million. Unfortunately, more than half of these costly attacks are aimed at small and medium-sized businesses, which are our region's economic engine. So now pair that with the global shortage of cyber professionals to thwart these attacks to the tune of about 755,000 openings in the US, about 81,000 here in California, and it becomes mission critical to address the workforce gap. Well, the good news is here in San Diego, we're leading the charge with more than 870 cyber firms and the US Navy's Naval Warfare Information Systems Command. The cluster now accounts for more than 24,000 jobs and has a total economic impact of $3.5 billion annually, and that's equal to hosting 9 Super Bowls. This collaborative ecosystem is developing new technology, defenses, as well as cyber warriors to combat these ever-evolving threats. So let's tap into this robust expertise with our esteemed panel today and talk about what San Diego businesses and workers need to know about the current threat landscape, as well as some workforce trends. So it's my pleasure to welcome our panel. Eric, why don't we go ahead and kick it off with you?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I always appreciate the opportunity to be on the panels. My name is Eric Basu. I'm the founder and CEO of Haiku. We create video games like the cool little one behind me that actually teach cybersecurity skills. And by doing this, we found we've actually been able to increase the both the diversity and the opportunity for people to be able to get into cybersecurity by making it far more accessible to them. In a previous life, I was an officer in the SEAL teams, and I ran a company called Centec Global that was a defense contractor in San Diego.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. Welcome. And Rich, we'll pass it to you.
Hi, my name is Richard Portelance. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. We always enjoy being part of the CCOE community. I'm with Journeys Map, and Journeys Map has started about 8 years ago here in San Diego. And our mission is to bring people into the world of cybersecurity by matching where they are currently to the possibilities of a career change. So we work from students from K through 12 all the way up through career transitioning adults and Army and workforce participants to help them figure out new careers. And so our mapping solution has a robust underlying data set that does everything from state education standards, CTE standards. We also have a robust repository from College Board and a job index from Indeed, as well as many other data sources that we brought together in one place for a visual map for people to be able to take the steps from where they are today to where they want to go. And we built a cyber-specific mobile application, and we're happy to offer that actually through CCOE as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Miguel, we'll wrap it up with you last, but certainly not least.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. Good morning to you, Lisa, and to my esteemed panel members. Always a pleasure to be on here with all of you guys, CCOE and the Business Journal. But my name is Miguel. Miguel Sampo, based out of San Diego, so I'm local here as well. 25 years, I'm dating myself now, in the cyber industry, or cyber. I think I started in this before there was even a cybersecurity practice, to be honest with you guys, but excited to be here. I'm part of RiskRecon, which is a Mastercard company. We specialize in third-party risk management. One more layer of security, and that security and layers kind of phenomenon that we see happening, or kind of protecting organizations. But excited to be here. What I find most exciting is just the evolving threat landscape, the sophistication of the technologies that we have to use, and also, not to give credit to the bad guys, but the sophistication of the attacks that we're seeing, right? So it's been a lot of fun. Working with all different verticals, working with our community here as well. And so excited to be here and be part of the panel today. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Well, let's jump right in. We're going to kick off our discussion with the trends we're already seeing take shape this year, from ransomware as a service to AI-driven social engineering to major changes in the cyber insurance market. So, Eric, what do you see as the key threats that all businesses should have on the radar this year?
Yeah, what's really interesting is there was just a recent article, I think a few days ago, about Merck Insurance, and they were hit by a cyber attack, and their insurer refused to cover it because they said it was a warlike act. That's a huge sea change in how businesses are going to react, because businesses have really always come from the perspective. For a while there, they didn't have any insurance at all until the Target CEO got fired. He was the first major company CEO to get fired for that. Then they all bought insurance and thought, I'm good. I pushed the insurance button. Now they're looking at it going, even if I buy insurance, my insurance might not cover it, which might lead again back to the executive team getting fired. So I think a focus on insurance, and as I say, I pose the problem, but I don't know the answer to that. Somebody smarter than me, like Jim Skeen at Lockton, would probably be better at having the specific answer to that. But I think that that's something that really, if I were a CEO of a large company, I'm a CEO of a small company, I would be looking at that very carefully and saying, what are we doing with our insurance? And will my insurance cover an act, or will they call it warlike? And that'll be litigated as well. I think one of the other things I think people need to look at is that we have a lot of warfare going on, right? Russia invaded Ukraine and a lot of that. And so we're going to see a lot of nation state type of actions that are coming as countries step in to help Ukraine. They may end up being targeted by Russian cyber attackers. I've been hearing some things about MFA attacks, being able to defeat MFA. MFA has become a lot more popular, a lot more common, thankfully. But so now you're seeing hackers starting to focus on how do they, get rid of MFA? How do they, do a SIM cloning so that they can actually intercept the text that comes to your phone? And you're going to see people, shifting their MFA type of responses based upon that. Another interesting one that there are two others that I want to hit because I don't want to take up all the time. One is the use of ChatGPT, and so ChatGPT, the open AI. That's come out, and I saw a great meme on this saying, okay, yeah, we all found that ChatGPT AI can actually be used during attacks. So if you work around ChatGPT, and they try to improve it all the time, you could actually get it to build malware that could get on an iPhone. You could do things. And it's the same sort of thing that we had when basically the most sophisticated attackers were ones that had personal skills. Then you had script kiddies that could download things, and suddenly that opened up the attack surface because the number of people that could attack did that. And so I think ChatGPT is taking that to another level, and not just, I don't want to pick on them, any AI, because they're basically enabling other people to be able to write malware, in this particular example, that could basically, compromise an iPhone. And so I think that's probably something that needs to be looked at as one additional threat, but certainly something you can't ignore is I'm going to have more people trying to attack my company.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. I know I keep saying I've seen this movie and it doesn't end well for humans. So, well, I think also one of the big trends we saw last year, and I think continues into this year, is that considerable uptick in supply chain attacks as cyber criminals attempt to fracture the backbone of our global production in critical sectors like food, energy, manufacturing, and so on. Miguel, what are the best practices and resources that you're suggesting for small to medium-sized businesses that are often the entry point and unfortunate casualties of these types of attacks?
Yeah, you're spot on, Lisa. There certainly was an uptick in what we saw. And to back up for a second to Eric's point, we talked about cyber insurance, and we talked a little bit about that. And we see that being weaved into supply chain and organizations that are seeking to get a policy for cyber insurance, making sure that not only are they protected within their own environment, but how much inherent risk have they introduced, or have they brought on by doing business with their supply chain, right? Or AKA third parties and fourth parties. And so having a good idea of what that inherent risk is becoming critical. And insurance companies, are starting to use tools that will give assessments or cyber rating scores on not only their own organization, but also the supply chain or their vendor landscape that they're working with, right? And so that's going to become something that we're going to see. I don't have a crystal ball, but I would predict that over the course of the next 18 to 36 months, we're going to see something like that. And probably so we'll see some kind of standardization on some kind of a scoring methodology, right? Today in the fintech world or in the financial world, we have a standardization score like FICO. Everybody's pretty familiar with FICO, right? And so we're going to see something very similar coming in that world. Going back to the supply chain attacks and the things that we've seen, Lisa, I think one of the most important things that we saw is that nobody's immune. There isn't a vertical that is safe, right? All verticals are targets for the bad guys. Healthcare, manufacturing, food, you name it, right? Retail, technology, all of them. They've all been victims to some degree. And the one theme that we see is educating our users is probably one of the most prevalent things that is part of that, right? And so my first best practice that I would recommend is recognizing what the vectors are. What are the vectors that these bad guys are using? And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail for the sake of time, but I will name a couple of these. Email. We use email every day. Understanding how to safely use email, not falling victim to phishing or vishing attacks, running enablement sessions so that our users understand how to do safe email computing is one of those vectors or one of those areas of focus that I would recommend for organizations, whether you're a small shop, a medium-sized shop, or a large shop. Proper use of email. I know it sounds kind of hokey, but know how to use email safely is the other one. The other component that we see is that, there's a lot of organizations that are building applications or using applications. Eric talked about script kiddies and stuff. Building applications has become so much easier nowadays than it has. There's tools that'll automate that process and build those for you. The problem with that is that you build applications that haven't been vetted by a security practitioner, you put it out on the web and you make it publicly available. Now you're subject to an exploitation or numerous amounts of vulnerabilities, right? So properly vetting applications that you're using, buying, building is critical. The other component that I would say is vulnerabilities, right? Everybody has to have some responsibility around patch management, understanding that your systems are up to date and running safe systems is one of the key, I guess, the 1, 2, 3s of, or the 101s of making sure that you're doing safe computing. There's a lot of other vectors that we can get into, right? Working closely with your InfoSec teams, if you have one, anything that's publicly facing, understanding what that looks like and what's the threat or the potential vulnerability with that. And so, like I mentioned, several other vectors that go into that. Part 2 to kind of the best practice approach is, I'll say it, and you hear me say it all the time, Lisa, security and layers, right? Whether it's, the days of antivirus and a firewall are not sufficient anymore. I mean, we got to use things beyond that. And so one of the things I recommend is that when you look at your tool sets, having tools that provide automation, whether it's an automated assessment, automated scans, things of that nature, are going to be fundamental to your cyber program. Continuous monitoring solutions are also going to be prevalent to that. And then physical, right? Running tabletop exercises in the event of a breach. How do we respond? What is step 1? What is step 2? Having a plan, I think, is part of that. And then the last component is working closely with your partners and your reseller community, whether it be your MSP or somebody that manages your SOC. If you do outsourcing, working with them and understanding what safe practices they bring, how do they invoke that, and having a contingency plan around that. And so I think those are probably the best practices that I would recommend. Locally, I do definitely want to make a soundbite that, the CCOE has been great with their cyber awareness program and working with several of the local municipalities and offering cyber awareness programs. We have teamed up with the CCOE and we, RiskRecon Mastercard, offer free trials on our website where you can run a scan and scan some of your vendors as well. But even more importantly, and even more cool to that, the CCOE also offers free assessments, free scans that have been partnered with us. I know City of Carlsbad, City of Vista, City of San Diego, and several others that are signing up. So we're excited to be able to offer those in our community as well, Lisa.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's been so much fun to be able to partner with organizations like Mastercard and ESET and CyberCatch and many others, the FBI, to provide small businesses with awareness and preparedness so that they have a better concept of the threat landscape and kind of their own cyber posture. So, and I think, as Miguel and Eric alluded to, creating a culture of cybersecurity is really mission critical for organizations now. Rich, how can resource-constrained small to medium-sized businesses effectively educate, and mobilize their employees and business partners to become stewards of cybersecurity, hygiene, and awareness?
That's a great question. And I think it's on everybody's mind is how do we get more thought leadership within that space? Small businesses, as you pointed out at the beginning, Lisa, are under attack more so today than ever before. And I think the number one thing people can do is take advantage of the opportunities that are at hand, like a CCOE, not to be too indulgent in promoting what you do, but it's really essential for small businesses. I mean, here we are people that are in the San Diego area, and we are taking advantage of the fact that there is a aggregate group of like-minded individuals who bring about opportunity to become aware, become trained, whether it's through a Haiku or other kind of solution. The small to medium-sized businesses and other businesses need to look into that community. So some of the things that CCOE has done, and I think it's really powerful, is bringing about some of the education leaders within the sector, so that these businesses can find talent and bring them in order to become more aware of what the cybersecurity threats are, how to better protect themselves. And if they can't hire those individuals themselves, they can bring in the right resources in order to protect their business. So it's a constantly evolving landscape. So I would definitely say, look outside of your own company and take advantage of what's out there. Get connected to the schools and industry professionals that are in the community. One of the things that we're doing too is bringing about opportunities for the younger professionals and the students. One of the cool things about cybersecurity is you don't necessarily have to have a college degree in order to become a cybersecurity professional. And so the more we interact with the local high schools, the more opportunities we can give those young people to see those career opportunities and present them, and then find the path to get a cybersecurity job within a year after high school or 2 years after high school. They can get the proper training to start off at the bottom level and work their way up. And what we're finding from these younger professionals is they bring some real world experience. They understand the mindset better than some of us older people do, just because they're living it. They're in that world of on a daily basis, and they kind of understand what's happening. So we'll definitely take advantage of the fact that there are programs. There are a lot of schools in the region that offer cybersecurity programs, and then there's really unique companies like Haiku and others that are offering programs that will train professionals very quickly to at least have a baseline understanding of how to take advantage and protect the company assets from cyber threats.
Awesome. Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. The shortage of cybersecurity professionals, continues to be a challenge across all industries, including more than 10,000 openings, here in the San Diego region. Miguel, can you talk a little bit about how employers can evolve those job recs to cast a bit of a wider net, and what criteria you recommend they focus on?
Absolutely. So I think Rich touched on a lot of these concepts as well. And so I think I'm going to reiterate some of those, but I think that one of the focuses is that rather than to focus on, and I don't want to take anything away from academia, right, or higher ed, but focusing on industry certs. There's a lot of great industry certifications, things like CISSP, GIAC, GSAC. I mean, these are more high level cybersecurity certificates, but there's also some that are more entry level. And I think that some of the focuses that organizations can do or employers can look at is, looking at expanding internships and converting internships into potential permanent positions. I think that's one. And so that gives the ability to retain talent. So we have all these great talent, or this pool of talent. We don't necessarily need them to go to Silicon Valley, right? Where I'm not taking anything away from Silicon Valley, but why not keep them here in San Diego, right? And doing that. And so I think looking at internships and converting some of those internship opportunities into more permanent positions where they can get on-the-job training, and creating more junior-like positions that can then evolve into more senior positions is something that employers can do. Participating, to Rich's point earlier, in the academia piece, career fairs here locally. We've got some of great academic institutions like San Diego State, who's just built a newer or a more recent cybersecurity program. They have an MIS, I think, in cybersecurity. UCSD's got something very similar around that as well. The other piece that I have is there's a lot of local programs too that employers can tap into, and you'll probably touch on this a little bit, Lisa, a little bit later. But the San Diego Workforce Partnership with CyberHire is another great opportunity for employers to cast that wider net as they're looking at. And then the other component is San Diego is such a great place, right? Aside from academia and some of the organizations that we have here, we also have a great military base, right, or military pool of individuals that have got some level of training, and leveraging those would be phenomenal. And I think organizations or employers need to look at all the different options and look at the wider pool of candidates. And I think that'll help kind of cast that larger net and retain great talent, because there is a lot of great talent here in the area as well.
Oh, fabulous suggestions. Thank you so much, Miguel. So, homogeny is the cyber criminal's best friend. And only still about a quarter of the cyber workforce includes women, minorities, and neurodiversity. Eric, how can we bring more diversity to the cyber talent pipeline to broaden our collective defenses?
I actually love that quote, Lisa. I think it's actually perfect. Because the more that, your defenses are predictable and your programming is predictable, the easier it is for, the script kiddies and, for an AI to be able to get in there. If you have unpredictability, and that comes with diversity of thought, which comes with the diversity of a workforce, I think that's it's a very timely topic. And at the risk of sounding like I'm I'm selling, but that's okay. Miguel gave a plug for RiskRecon too. We actually built Haiku specifically to address that. I mean, when we built it, I looked at the other ways that are out there training. And again, nothing to take away from a higher degree. I mean, there's definitely a place if I'm hiring somebody to move into management or something else to have a bachelor's and a master's degree. These are important things. There's a lot of value behind that, but fill the 3.5 million unfilled jobs, which are projected to get to 600. We're not going to get to there if we're trying to require everyone to get a bachelor's degree. It's too hard. The lack of diversity in cybersecurity, women only comprise 24% of the cybersecurity workforce. Why is that? Compared to other professionals, Latinos only 4% of the cybersecurity workforce. We work very closely with the ISIS, which is a group nonprofit designed to increase the number of Latinos in cybersecurity. But as one example, we built World of Haiku, the game you see behind me, as a role-playing game. One of the reasons we did that is that 60% of role-playing gamers are women versus 24% in the cybersecurity workforce. Video games cross every demographic, every gender, race, income demographic. People love to play video games. Video games have a way. There's a great book by Jan McGonigal called Reality is Broken. It explains why we like video games. And rather than telling people they should play less video games, tell them they should make real life more like video games, because it appeals to the basic tenets of what we think as humans. And so I think in order to be able to do that, it's more than just taking something that somebody doesn't want to do already, putting it in front of more people who don't want to do it and saying, okay, now you need to do it more because we need diversity. That's silly, right? It's really going to people who aren't in the field that you're in and saying, what do you want to see? What would make you want to do this as a job? It's not just telling you how much money is in there, because everybody knows how much money is in there. What will make this easier for you to be able to get into?
Great. Well, so for those in our audience that we've inspired to join the fight, from transitioning service members to students to seasoned professionals with sights on the next level, Rich, how do they get started?
So they can get started by going to CCOE using the career map that's plugged in there. Journeys map powers that opportunity. And what we're trying to do is create fill the gap. There's a gap between the training, the actual jobs, and the people who want to get there. And so we're trying to partner with groups like CCOE to create that conduit so that people who are looking for opportunities, if they're working at a company and they're not sure how to get training, they can use the map. They can have their professionals or the students can come in and use the map and find the skill gap. That's the first piece of it is, where am I lacking? What do I need to be ready for that particular profession? And then how do I gain those skills? And as these guys pointed out, it could be through some training. It could be through a college course. It could be just on the job training, and then they can evolve into those new roles. And I love what Eric was just saying about, and actually, I think it was Miguel, you were talking about the younger professionals coming in and using those interns and then building them up over time, right? So I would reiterate that point as we're talking about, how do you get there? Use the younger people that are available to you. And if you have an internship program with a local school, that's a great way in which to build a pipeline of talent over time. So one of the ways we talked about was contacting CCOE, using the mapping function to find skills gap, getting in touch with the people within your community, and using the resources at hand in order to build up a stronger team. So that was my recommendations.
Yeah, so we're very excited. The map is now, I think, in its 6th year, completely free to users, gives you an opportunity like a Google map. I'm here, I want to get there, and includes everything from all of the different types of education, certifications, hands-on learning like Haiku, as well as, kind of determining what your skills and interests are and where that aligns in the cybersecurity realm. I always say, I'm not a cybersecurity technician, but I live and breathe cybersecurity. My background is finance and economics. There is a place in cybersecurity for everyone. We need folks that are great communicators. We need folks that are good problem solvers. We need good collaborators. So it's really an exciting field to be able to join at a time where it's just incredibly in demand and every single industry needs it. So if you want to be in medicine and you can't deal with blood and you want to help folks, cybersecurity is a great place to get in. So
I would add to that, Lisa, because you were talking about the skills there for a second. We just added a component to the map, and I don't think we even spoke about this to you yet. We're going to have over 30,000 skills represented on the map now. So think about, where you are. Traditionally, like an ONET type of system might have 300 skills represented that match you up to jobs. We've expanded that greatly. Now we're offering over 30,000 skills. So that's going to make it much more finite. And for career fields like cybersecurity, that's super important, because you need to get specific with those skills. And then we have a matching technology so that you can see the gap that's existing between where you are today and where you need to get to. And then we can match those up to those learning opportunities, like you just pointed out, that are all localized. So there's a lot of opportunity out there and a lot of new technologies. It's just kind of identifying and finding where they are and taking advantage of it.
Absolutely. And I think what's fun for employers as well is this is an opportunity to upskill. Exactly as Miguel said, you've got folks that are part of your corporate culture that you spent the time and energy to bring into the team. This is an opportunity to look for some of those folks that might be able to upskill into some of these additional cybersecurity roles. So, well, I think we're just about at time, but I'd love to get a final thought from each of you on what San Diego businesses and workers need to know about this current threat landscape, as well as workforce trends, as we're already fast forwarding through 2023. So, Eric, why don't we start with you for a final thought?
Yeah, it's a thought I've used before in other panels, is for a business, if you're trying to fill your positions, don't advertise an entry-level position that requires 3 to 5 years of experience. It's become a meme, but I literally can go there and see one right now, that says, hey, entry-level cybersecurity, 3 to 5 years of experience. You've got to be willing to take people and hire for skills rather than hire for the degree that somebody chose when they were 18. And that's how you're going to start filling that in there. It takes a little more work and it takes a little more confidence and knowledge on the part of the business, but that's how we're going to be able to close part of this workforce gap.
Great thought. Thank you so much. Rich, we'll pass it to you.
I would say that you have to look at non-traditional pathways to careers. As Eric was just saying, you need to look into the high schools, you need to look into the community colleges, find people that are interested in the topic. They don't necessarily have to have a 4-year degree to be a contributing member of your team. And most likely, those people that are non-traditional are going to offer a very unique perspective on cyber. So definitely look outside the normal boundaries to find talent.
And Miguel, take us home.
Yeah, well said to both my esteemed colleagues here on the line. Lisa, I love the quote that you say, and I think it's cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility, and I truly feel that in today's modern era, the technology era, it's not just on the professional level, it's also on the personal level. Safe computing, right? Understanding what app you load on your smart device, on your home PC. The responsibility isn't just at protecting the workforce or safe computing practices in the workforce. As an individual person, protect yourself, take care of yourself, educate yourself. You download an app, understand kind of what's the drawbacks of an app, or how do you use that app efficiently and correctly. And so in this world, we're the threat landscape is evolving, and that's not going to go away, and not anytime, then at least not in my lifetime. And so I think understanding how to be diligent, how to be vigilant around your safe computing practices is the note that I'll leave everybody with. Stay safe, be safe, is my parting words today.
Fabulous. Yes, I think every family's motto should be think before you click. So
Absolutely.
and we start them young. I think that's my final thought on this really is it is not too early to ever start talking about cybersecurity with your children. I love the fact that my son comes to me and says, is it okay for me to do this? Because I know I need to be thinking about cybersecurity, and he's 9. So we want to start to really integrate that into everyone's thought processes, because again, as everyone on this panel has talked about, cybersecurity really is everyone's business at this point. And it is all of our responsibility to make sure that we help keep all of these critical infrastructure pieces safe, as well as all these key industries safe, and then all the way down to our communities and our families. So thank you so much. This was such a fun discussion. I love speaking with you guys. You become fan favorites. Great, insightful conversation today. We invite businesses as well as job seekers to visit some of the resources we've talked about on CCOE's website, sdccoe.org. Lots of information and free resources there for the community. We thank our listeners today for joining us, and we're looking forward to our next San Diego Business Journal Cyber Trends panel that will be coming up this spring. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.